It's episode 640 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm talking about the first 4 games the Rangers had out of the break, some super highs, some super lows, and a whole lot of weirdness in between. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Monday, July 25th. Your Rangers are 43-51, and thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers or subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment anything below. Before we get into the weirdness that is all this. Also, later on in the show, I'm going to go, which I didn't do on Friday, little show business. But yeah, my grandfather passed away about a month ago, and so we had the service for his memorial on Friday. I had a lot of family in town. It was just not in a place where I wanted to be doing a podcast. Thank you all for being so understanding before that, making that week a really, really great week. A lot of new viewers, a lot of old viewers, a lot of everyone tuning in, a lot of draft stuff. By the way, we're going to have more draft stuff coming up later this week. Talk with Lindsey Crosby, host of Locked On MLB Prospects, later on. Not sure which day. I will let you know when I know on Twitter. Before we get into all this good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Now, before we get into any more of that, a little bit more draft talk. Brock Porter has officially signed with the Rangers for a $3.7 million signing bonus, well above the 4th round slot. And so I am officially an idiot for not liking what the Rangers did in the draft. They got 2 of the best arms in the draft, if not the 2 best arms in the draft. If you want to learn more about them, go listen to last week's episodes. I talked a whole bunch about both of those guys. But let's look at this first game. A weird way to start out the break. I don't think the Rangers are the only team that did this. I'm pretty sure there were more. But they went to Miami for a day, and then they went to Oakland for the weekend out of the All-Star break. So poor Corey Seager had to fly all the way from LA to Miami to Oakland. All of that in about a week span. I think he also had to fly from Texas to LA first. So yeah, a lot of flying for Corey Seager. Did not play in this game. Honestly, he was on the bench. He was available, but I think they probably should have just sent him to Oakland. That would have been a lot nicer to him, because he didn't end up playing this game. It was an 8-0 shutout. John Gray was absolutely fantastic yet again. Could have gone another inning, but I respect them wanting to get some other guys in there, because none of these guys had pitched in like 5 days, and so you got to get your relievers some work. But the Rangers are in the middle of what I believe an 18 games and 18-day stretch to come out of the All-Star break. So yeah, those relievers are going to get some work. They most definitely are. We at least do have Dane Dunning is coming back, I believe, this week, the next time through the rotation. So the Rangers are going to have to make a decision on someone in the Taylor Hearn or Glenn Otto or Spencer Howard variety. I think it's probably going to end up being Taylor Hearn that gets sent down, but I'm not entirely sure. But this is a great day for the Rangers offense against a really, really good pitcher. Pablo Lopez, if you don't know, he's a really darn good pitcher for Miami, and the Rangers lit him up for 5 earned runs in 5 innings. Actually, all of their runs were earned. Adolis Garcia had his 16th bomb of the year. A lot of doubles in this one. Cole Calhoun, Marcus Semien, Elier Hernandez, who got his first Major League Baseball double. I don't think I talked about him coming up, I believe. I want to say for the first time. I have not seen him come up at all before this. This might have been his first Major League hit. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, he's 27 years old, out of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic, born in 1994, which means he is 27 years old. Yeah. This is his first stint in the big leagues. His first extra base hit in the big leagues was that one. Congratulations to him on getting called up. Sorry I did not mention it when it was happening, but I was probably out of town. I think that was exactly when I was out of town. So congrats to Elier Hernandez on his first extra base hit on his Major League debut. And he's had a pretty good season for Round Rock and definitely earned that call-up. It was a little surprising, But that does not mean that it wasn't merited. Big offensive day, 8-0 win. Not a whole lot else to say. It was very encouraging to do that. I mean, the Marlins offense is in just an atrocious slump right now, so it was a good time for Jon Gray to be facing them. They struggle with sliders. He's got a really darn good one, and when it's on, it is really freaking nasty. And Jon Gray has been really darn good for the month of June and the month of July as well. In the month of June, he had a 2.39 ERA in his 6 starts, nearly 38 innings and 44 strikeouts. So far in July, he's been even better. He has a 2.25 ERA in 4 starts, averaging 6 innings per start, so 24 innings, and 29 strikeouts in that time, just 4 walks. The guy has been on fire lately. The slider is that much more deadly. The Rangers basically won him over with their PowerPoint presentation on how they're going to make his slider better. The Colorado Rockies were like, it's as good as it is. It's pretty good. We can't do anything to make it better. The Rangers are like, no, we can make it better. It's already really good, but we're going to make it even better, and has made him that much more effective at the top. Well, one of the top pitchers in the Rangers rotation that Texas relies way too heavily on. Just those 2 guys. If those 2 aren't pitching, then the Rangers are in for a rough one. But if they are pitching, the Rangers are in a very, very good place so far this year. After the slow start, the 2 IL stints in his first 2 starts, the knee issue, the finger blister issue, which has not popped up. I was told that it was going to be a recurring issue. It's just something that he deals with, but it has not been an issue since then. No IL trips. He's been healthy. He's been gripping the slider, the breaking pitches very, very well, and he has been mixing his pitches very well, using that slider a lot and very effectively when he does use it. Basically just... he's becoming pretty much just a fastball slider guy. I mean, he does have the changeup that he throws about 9% of the time. The curveball he throws about 4% of the time, but he doesn't use those nearly as much. They're more of a, change your pace kind of pitch. But when your fastball is that good and your slider is that good, which one point about his fastball, the velocity is in the top 82% of baseball. The spin rate, and it is a 4-seamer that he's using, the spin rate is in the bottom 10% of baseball. It's a little confusing how that's so effective, but it's working, so I'm not really going to question it. You look at all the rest of his little sliders, well, not his slider pitches, but the circles or whatever on Baseball Savant, pretty much all of them are in the red or the pinkish red or the above average kind of category. His walk rate is just a little bit above average. Hard hit percentage is 3% below the exact middle of Major League Baseball, but everything else, the expected ERA, average exit velo, all the expected numbers, strikeout rate, chase rate, whiff rate, curveball spin rate, all of those are in the top, 40 to 30% of Major League Baseball. So that's how you know he is being a very, very effective pitcher. The Rangers look like they got an absolute bargain signing him for how much they did when they did, and he's going to be here for years to come, and maybe pairing with Martin Perez for years to come. We'll see how that all shakes out and what's going to go on at this deadline, and if the Rangers are going to make a decision on if he's going to stay or not. We're going to get into a little bit more of this weekend's games. Really, really frustrating games in Oakland, even the one that the Rangers won. But first, this episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has these simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as the setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Now let's look a little bit at this Oakland series. The Rangers went 1-2. So, by the way, for those freaking out about how horrendous the second half has been, the Rangers are 500 in the second half. If they can continue to be 500. Well, I'd like them to be better than 500, get the whole season record up to a winning record possibly, even if it's just by one game. I don't really care. But this was a rough weekend for the Rangers. Spencer Howard came out and went nearly 5 innings. So, again, he is showing a lot more length, still giving up a crap ton of runs. This was one of, I'd say, his roughest start since he's come back into the Rangers rotation. 4 2/3 innings, a pair of home runs, 3 walks, and 4 earned runs, 4 runs total. But all of those were earned. Brock Burke came in and tried to clean up the damage as best he could. Went an inning and a third. Jonathan Hernandez is back up and has not allowed an earned run, I think. Just double checking. Yeah, has not allowed a single earned run in the 3 games since being called back up. 2 strikeouts in those 3 innings. But fairly solid work for him. Glad that he is back, giving the Rangers another really big swing and miss guy. Jose Leclerc has still not quite found himself since coming back to the big leagues. I mean, he is coming off 2 years, missing 2 years, and that's going to take a lot out of you. By the way, the Nathaniel Lowe dominating in Oakland trend continues. He had his first home run of the season there in the early season when I said, no, it's not going to happen for him having his first home run of the season because it's Oakland in the early season, so it's going to be cold and the ball's not going to travel. But Nathaniel Lowe didn't care. Hit his 13th bomb of the season off of Lou Trevino in this one. Multi-hit game for him in this one. Multi-hit game for Marcus Semien. Of course, he always does well against his former team. Not a whole lot else doing offensively in this one for the Rangers. They did try and come back late, but it just wasn't quite enough. The Rangers only had the 1 run through the first 7 innings. Poured on 3 late in the game, and that 1 run that Jose Leclerc gave up in the bottom of the 8th inning ended up being the difference maker in, yet again, another 1-run loss for this Rangers team. On Saturday, this I think was the most frustrating loss of the weekend, and one of the more frustrating losses of the season. And I'd say the 6th inning was definitely the most frustrating inning specifically of the season. Well, I don't know. That 7-run 11th or 12th inning or whatever it was against Oakland right before the break was pretty upsetting. But this was just a combination of top and bottom of the inning being just completely horrendous missed chances. This was the 6th inning of the Saturday game. If you weren't watching, God bless you. You have more of a life than I do, and you were probably out doing something more fun than this. But it started off with the Rangers having the bases loaded with 1 out, and in comes Charlie Culberson, pinch hitting for Cole Calhoun. Now, I believe a lefty was on the mound at the time, and then they did a pitching change so that a righty was replacing Kirby Snead. But still, I don't know why Charlie Culberson is pinch hitting. In that situation, in any situation, outside of the game is over, we're going to give our main guys a break. Charlie Culberson has been really bad this season. It's been incredibly frustrating. He has not done the one thing well that he was supposed to do well in hit lefties, and then he comes in to hit righties. In 51 games, 91 plate appearances this year, he has a slugging percentage of .287 and an on-base of .286. That is a .573 OPS for those of you playing along at home. 94 plate appearances, not a single home run. Not a single one. Only 3 doubles this season. It has been rough for him. Cole Calhoun has looked a little better in the second half early on. I mean, I don't know really why these pinch hitting. It's just such a frustrating thing. And in comes ground ball, double play. Situation is over. Moment is squandered. That's it. No moment for them. And at this point, it was a scoreless game. Now, the bottom of the inning comes up. And this is why I harp on Nathaniel Lowe's defense. This was a really, really bad play. The bases were loaded with no outs. That's not on him. He did not do that. The pitcher did that. So, but yeah, this was just a really, really rough moment for him defensively. He goes for a ball with the bases loaded to his right where he should have just gone to the base. I believe Marcus Semien was there playing second base, as he always is, and he was in position to make the play. Probably wouldn't have gotten the double play, but would have at least gotten 1 out. The run was probably going to score anyway. I don't know why Nathaniel Lowe was going for it there, and he bobbled it and missed it and then couldn't get back to the base to get the catch for the runner at first, and it was just an absolute disaster. Then Oakland went on to have 2 straight sac flies that would give them their 2 runs, that sac fly there and then a sac fly later on in the game. That would give them their 3 runs, which was all they needed in this one. Just a really, really frustrating loss where the Rangers could have prevented it. They really could have. It was a decent outing for Taylor Hearn, 3 1/3 innings. the Rangers really like him when he's able to throw full tilt 100%. So not quite in a starting capacity. Woody said that him as kind of a pseudo starter, long reliever is more of what he's going to do. Matt Bush was the opener in this one, and the Rangers, I believe, are 1-8 in games that are started by an opener. Not a great outing there, and not a great outing for Dennis Santana, who was, I believe he was the one who give up all those runs, or at least, gave up the first 2 runs in that inning, and just has not been nearly the same. His ERA is up over 4. It feels like just like 5 games ago it was sub 2, sub 1.5, and now it's just absolutely exploded. That extra innings game really exploded his ERA, threw a big bomb into it. But Matt Moore was not able to limit damage quite as much. Allowed an unearned run. Rangers defense had 3 errors in that one. Duran had an error. Nathaniel Lowe had that error, and Bruce Viloria, even though he had a really good defensive game, making a lot of plays out in front of the plate and a diving catch in foul territory. Really good defense from him. I didn't know what to expect from him defensively. The bat has been kind of so far, but he's a backup catcher to a backup catcher to the starting catcher is out for the rest of the year. So not that Jonah is a backup anymore. I'm pretty sure he is going to be. He might be the everyday starter next year, depending on what happens with Garver. That'll be a whole thing I get into later on this episode. But Viloria has made some really good defensive plays in this one. This was a frustrating one, as was the final game of this series. The Rangers were winning at one point 11-1. We're going to get into that one and some big questions the Rangers need to answer in the second half of this season. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events all in one place for the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news for every single league, including Major League Baseball. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Now, this might be the most frustrating win the Rangers have had all season. The Rangers did a sequel. They did an encore of a performance they did earlier in the season, of having a huge lead against the A's and nearly freaking blowing it and making it way more dramatic than it needed to be. Way more. The Rangers, heading into the 8th inning, were up 11-1. This game was wrapped up. It didn't need to have any drama. Martin Perez was, yet again, absolutely phenomenal. 7 innings from him, and this one only 1 run that was earned. Then Garrett Richards comes in and absolutely blows up. I can never make up my mind with Garrett Richards this season. As soon as I start writing him off for being terrible, he starts performing amazingly. As soon as I think, okay, maybe this guy is okay, he has an outing like this. He hadn't pitched in, I believe 10 days, which I get it, you're rusty. But this is the freaking A's. This is one of the worst offense, if not the worst offense in all of Major League Baseball. You cannot give up 4 runs while getting just 1 out. You just can't do it. You absolutely cannot do it. Thankfully, Jose Leclerc was able to step in and stop some of the bleeding, and that way the Rangers headed into the 9th inning with a 6-run lead. So, you'd think, pretty manageable, right? In comes Brett Martin. First out. All right, everything's fine. Then, up comes a batter. Solo shot. Okay, it happens. Things happen. It's Sean Murphy. He's actually a good player. That's fine. Next batter, Chad Pender. Solo shot. Okay, that's really freaking annoying, but it's fine. Just go get those outs. There's still a 4-run lead. Next batter, home run. Are you freaking kidding me? Tony Kemp. Really? Why are we doing this? 3 straight home runs, and it took until that for someone to get loosening in the Rangers' pen. Brock Burke was up and ready to step in, but thankfully Brett Martin was able to clean up his mess. The Rangers at that point had a 3-run lead, but he was able to get out of it, recover from those 3 straight solo shots, and thankfully they were just solo shots. But the Rangers won 11-8. This should not have been a thing. What I should have been talking about is how great Martin Perez was, how, wow, that was so great. This was kind of a bounce back from the two stupid outings that happened earlier this series, the Rangers should have done this from the start. But no, I should have been talking about only Jonah Heim's 3 doubles, which ties a Rangers franchise record with a catcher. I can't remember exactly who the catcher was because it was in 2004. It was not Pudge Rodriguez, which was the thing that shocked me the most about this. He had a chance for a 4th double to stand alone, which I believe might have been the franchise record for just doubles in a game. I can't imagine anyone's had more than 4. That's just a lot of doubles, and he just kept on hitting him. And I feel like most of them were pretty much on the warning track, so he could have turned a couple of those into home runs, but didn't matter. And also a double from Marcus Semien, 18th of the season. Leody Taveras, again, a double, his 11th of the season. Another home run by Adolis Garcia, his 17th, and Corey Seager, his 23rd of the season. Charlie Culberson came in after 3 plate appearances from Corey Seager to relieve him. By the way, we have seen time and time again this season, it's looking like the backup shortstop is definitely Marcus Semien. No one else has played shortstop besides Marcus Semien and Corey Seager for the Rangers this season. So I think that's going to be the trend for the rest of the year. Not a whole lot of half days for Semien either. Pretty much just every single day. I mean, we saw that he played 162 last year. He played 162, I believe, in 2019. He's a guy who wants to play every single day. Won't do it this year because that one game that the Rangers gave him off in the middle of his horrendous start kind of kick-started everything and figuring it all out. But he has only missed that one game because the Rangers were sitting him to give him a day to get everything right. But the rest of the Ranger offense was absolutely on it. Adolis Garcia had his first 4-for-4 game, his first 4-hit game in the major leagues, reached base all 5 times that he was up at the plate, a walk as well, 3 singles and a dinger. Corey Seager is just 4 home runs away from a new career high, which is pretty darn great. I mean, Woody talked about how he's seen him, spraying lasers all over the place when he was in LA, but he said this is the hottest he's seen him the most. He's been hitting it for power. He is up that launch angle a little bit, and I talked so much early in the season about how Corey Seager's expected numbers were so much better than his actual numbers, and I didn't understand why that was happening. It seems like we're getting some regression to the mean in a good way. Those regular numbers are getting much, much closer to the expected numbers because his regular numbers have been absolutely on fire in the month of July, and that has been huge, huge, huge for the Rangers, and they're absolutely going to need that. Leody Taveras, his first 3-hit game in the major league, great for him, multi-hit game for Cole Calhoun. Everybody did their part. The Rangers were 8 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Still left 10 runners on base because they had just so many freaking runners. 16 hits, 3 walks in this one. The Rangers were just on base constantly in this one. But again, the end kind of ruined this. Now, really quickly, I'm going to get into my 3 big questions. I said that I was going to do that on Friday. Didn't do an episode on Friday or Saturday. But let's get into those 3 big questions. I'm combining a couple of them. It was going to be like 5, but now it's just going to be 3. So the first big question the Rangers need to answer in the second half of this season: how good are Nathaniel Lowe and Adolis Garcia? Both those guys jumped onto the scene, did a much better job than I thought either of them would last year. They were the 2 lone bright spots for the Rangers last season. Adolis had a 3.8 WAR season, was absolutely robbed of the Associated Press with the Baseball Writers Association of America's American League Rookie of the Year. Sporting News had him the American League Rookie of the Year, so they are the truest Rookie of the Year rankers, according to me, for all time. Last year, Nathaniel Lowe, even with his bad defense and being a first baseman, had a 2.4 WAR season. Last year, top 5 in Rangers WAR. Funny that Joey Gallo is still number 1 at the end of the season, even though he was traded. Same with Kyle Gibson still being in the top 5, even though he was also traded midseason. Last year, Adolis broke out in the first couple months of the season, was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best players in baseball in the month of May. Absolutely annihilating baseballs with his flair for the dramatic, just so much fun in a team that was not fun at all. And his second half was really, really not fun, kind of limped across the finish line. We all thought that he was going to just absolutely shatter that Rangers rookie home run record, but he just barely got across it, did hit over that 30 home run mark with 31. His final home run of the season was what broke Pete Incaviglia's record that had stood since, I believe, the 90s. But he really faded in the second half. I thought, okay, well, was he just dominating because they had no scouting report on him? Has he been figured out? Has he not adjusted to how long the league season was? part of that was all true, and we thought, okay, this year is really going to tell us what the real Adolis is. And he was pretty fine for the first month, and then the month of June, he absolutely lit the entire world on fire, carried the Rangers offense in a huge way. Same with Nathaniel Lowe. Both those guys were absolutely ginormous for the Rangers in that month, and the Rangers would have finished much worse if both those guys weren't destroying every baseball they freaking saw. But in the month of July, so far, until this post All-Star break, which has been really good. But the month of July so far, 18 games for Adolis, a 614 OPS after a 929 OPS in the month before in June. So post All-Star break, come out firing. Absolutely come out firing. 4 games, 17 at-bats, a 1382 OPS. Already has a pair of home runs, a 500 on base, and slugging 882. A 4-hit game and a pair of home runs in a 4-game span will definitely help you get that OPS, that slugging percentage, all those good numbers up. If he can, I'm not saying that he needs to have a 929 OPS in another month, but I don't know, get the OPS up there. I want the on base above 300. That was one of the barometers statistically that I wanted for him. He's hitting 248. On base is 292. Slugging 460. So that's a 752 OPS. I would like that OPS to be around in the 770s. Really just get the on base up. That's what I really want. He is hitting the ball ridiculously hard and making some great contact. Same for Nathaniel Lowe, who I was worried was a little bit too passive at the plate. That has not been the case so far this year. And he was the only one on that offense, that Rangers offense, in the final game of the series. The Rangers dropped 11 runs. That had a horrendous day. It was really confusing, especially because he went 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts against the A's. He dominates the A's, he dominates on the road, and he dominates in Oakland. All those things should have meant that he was right in the middle of all of this offensive explosion. But he was not, and you know what? We'll figure out how great he is offensively moving down the road. Long term, I would like him to be a DH. I just would like that. Whether it's Josh Young moving over to first base, I think his bat might have the carry that you need to have, or the ceiling, whatever, to play first base and have that be a above average player. I think he could be really good defensively at first base. He has not played at first base, but I'm thinking long term, Josh Smith kind of rover. Maybe Dustin Harris is the long-term first baseman, and Josh is at third, and Ezekiel Duran is in left field. I don't know, but I just would like to not see those plays that we saw on Saturday happen consistently. But Nathaniel Lowe is hitting the ball a whole lot harder. If he can get that on base back up and have, I don't know, something similar to that month of June in August or September or whatever, that would be very, very encouraging. Doesn't have to do, 900 plus OPS for a month again, but still would like to see some encouraging signs from him. The second question is, who is the 4th starting pitcher for the rest of this season? I think it'll be a bigger question next year. Actually, I think it might be still pretty important, whoever wins this number 4 role. If it is Glenn Otto, and I think it might be, he's been the most consistent, I still would like to see him go a little bit deeper into games, but he's been much better than I thought he would be. Taylor Hearn, it seems like the Rangers are all but given up on him as a starting pitcher, and that has been really frustrating. And Spencer Howard has had his moments, but again, if you're happy when he goes 5 innings and gives up 3 runs, which that should be more number 5 starter anyway, if it is a number 5 starter, if not your number 6 guy. That's not something that you really want long term in your rotation. I think it's going to be Glenn Otto that wins that number 4 spot. That when Dane Dunning comes back, we'll see Spencer Howard in that 5 spot, and then probably next year I would say one of the youngsters in AAA or AA makes that leap. I'm starting to get a little concerned about Jack Leiter and his fastball command issues. Scott Lucas of the Newberg Report saw him and was pretty concerned about that fastball command. So I'm starting to have some worries there. I do still think he'll figure it out, but one of those guys at the top level, I think, will replace somebody in this rotation, hopefully next year, for the number 5 starter role, or the Rangers are going to go get another starting pitcher either at the deadline, which I think is unlikely, or they're going to get another one in free agency, which I think is a lot more likely. But yeah, whoever is the 4th starter this season is probably going to be in the rotation next year and needs to be at least passable. And I think Glenn Otto is passable at this point. So very encouraging stuff from him this year. And the last question, is Jonah Heim and Leody Taveras' success sustainable? Now, I did think that the 850 or whatever OPS that Heim had for the first month of the season, I was like, all right, this is a great breakout, but I don't know how sustainable it is. And he has proved me wrong. He still has an OPS over 800 at this point. If he can keep it above 800, that is a very, very valuable player. He's a 2.4 baseball reference WAR at this point in the season through 73 games for him. But he's going to have some really big questions of if it is a, dual catcher tandem in every other day. It's going to be him and Mitch Garver. If he's going to have certain starting pitchers that he is the one that is their primary catcher versus Mitch Garver being their primary catcher, we'll see. But he has made it a real question as to whether or not he is going to, it's kind of the Robinson Chirinos and Jonathan Lucroy situation where the Rangers trade for this big bat and somebody who they had all along they didn't quite expect ends up surprising and performing better than that player. Jonah Heim has been that guy. His defense has been super valuable, and the bat has been really darn good. And Leody, the expected numbers say that this is not at all sustainable. His WOBA right now is 394. His expected WOBA is 97 points lower than that. His expected slugging percentage is another biggie. He's slugging 540 right now. His expected slugging is 366, and his batting average is 76 points above what the expected batting average is, or 74 points above what the expected batting average is. So that's going to fall down a little bit, but part of it, the slugging number, I think he's always going to outperform that because he is so stinking fast, and he will hit those little soft dribblers into shallow in the outfield and be able to outrun that into being a double, as opposed to the traditional double where you hit it to the wall and then you make it second. He's going to turn a lot of those balls into triples, and with his speed and the little bloops that it's hard for an infielder or an outfielder to get to, into a lot of doubles. And I think he's going to continue that. He's already got 11 doubles, I believe, on the season so far. So he doesn't have to do this to be a valuable big leaguer, but if he does continue to do this, he will be a very, very stinking good big leaguer, because at this point he is already the 9th best player according to Baseball Reference WAR, a 1.2 WAR player so far through 34 games. Just this long, sustained run of success has been ginormous for him and his confidence, and for the Rangers, and for that one Rangers fan in the comments who said that I was on crack when I did not hate Leody Taveras. This has been a great, great development. Same with Jonah Heim, but I'm just curious how sustainable this is. I think it is pretty sustainable, well, at least for Jonah Heim. Once the numbers start to level out, I do think that Leody Taveras is their center fielder of the future, and they knew he was ready, and they called him up at the right time, and that has been super, super encouraging, and I have loved every minute of seeing Leody Taveras thrive. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rangers. For your next listen, go check out Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby, he is going through a bunch of Major League Baseball drafts, you can see who won the draft. He absolutely loved what the Rangers did in the draft. I think he has already talked about them a little bit, so go check out his show. He is talking about the MLB stars of tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about this game in Seattle, see where the Rangers are, and I'll talk a little bit more about what the Rangers should do with Martin Perez. That's going to do it for today's episode, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.